Hello class, welcome to today's algebra lesson. People call me the Eliminator. Now, normally I'm eliminating people's problems such as cockroaches, termites, bugs, bed bugs, all kind of bugs. But today I'm eliminating the worst problem of all. You got that right. Algebraic equations. Now, I'm not just going to eliminate your problem and leave. I'm going to show you how to eliminate your problems from now on. So, take out your pencil, calculator, notebook, get ready, because we're going to do some eliminating. Now, before we actually start this lesson about elimination, I think there's something you should know about me. I love Mexican food. That's right, especially salsa. Now, like you know, there's different types of salsa. You've got your mild, you got your medium, and you got your hot. Well, in the same way, our algebraic formulas today, we're going to be able to solve equations and systems of equations that are mild, medium, and a bit spicy. But you'll do just fine. First, let's start with the mild. Anybody can do these. You can do these. I know it. Here are your steps on how to solve any elimination problem. Now, I know this looks pretty scary, but that's okay. You're going to do just fine. First, you're going to put both equations into standard form if they're not already. Now, with these mild equations, you'll notice they're already in standard form. This will make our lives a lot easier. You're going to multiply one of the lines, or maybe both of the lines, to get your x's or y's to be the same. Then you're going to cancel them. Now, right now, some of you are lost. That's okay. We're going to do this so many times, you're going to know what to do. You'll eliminate your problems and then solve for the other variable. We'll go back to these steps as we solve this problem. So right here, you'll notice that we have both equations in standard form. My advice is, whenever you don't have a number in front of an x or a y, put the number 1. Because before, there was just one x there, so I can put a 1 to make it 1x. Now, I'm going to see if I could go straight down to eliminate any of our problems. And sure enough, right now, negative 2y plus 2y, if I go straight down, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. They cancel. Y has been eliminated. Now I'm going to go straight down here. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So 1x minus 4x is negative 3x. Then negative 9 and a positive 18 gives me 9. Now, a piece of advice I've got for you. If you don't have a sign in front of this number right here, always put a plus. It'll save you from making a dumb mistake. Next, I've got negative 3x equals 9. Let's forget about all this stuff. It's done. Negative 3x equals 9. That's easy to solve. You divide by negative 3 because the negative 3 was touching the x, and that's just gross. Negative 3 divided by 3 cancels. So we know that x equals negative 3. I circle that to help me remember. Next, I can go up into either of the two original equations. It doesn't matter which one. Just pick one. Which one do you choose? The top, right. That's exactly what I was going to go to also. Here's a little tip from the Eliminator. If you have a letter without a number in front of it, that's the equation you probably want to choose. It'll make your life a little bit easier. So our original equation was x minus 2y equals negative 9. Now, instead of x, what should I put? Negative 3. That's correct. Because you told me right here that x equals negative 3. And then I just copy all the rest. Don't even think about it. Just copy. Next, you're going to just solve this just like a normal equation. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 3. I did my specialty. They are eliminated. Now I'm going to do negative 9 plus 3, which is negative 6. I will divide by negative 2 And that's right, you guessed it, y equals positive 3. So for your final answer, what you're going to do is you're going to write this in point form, because what you've just found was the point where these two lines intersect, and you did it all without graphing. So x always comes first. X was negative 3, so I put a negative 3 there. Then my comma, and then my y. Y is 3, so I put a 3 right there. Now, what you just did was downright amazing. The point negative 3, 3, what you did was you just did this without graphing at all. Here's the graph of those two lines, and you'll notice that right there at negative 3, 3, that's where those two lines intersect. We did it all without even actually graphing. That is awesome. Alright, so that was how to do a mild equation. First, we put both equations in standard form. It was done for us. Second, we multiplied to obtain a like x or y. Fortunately, we didn't even have to do that. The y's were both the same. You'll notice 2 and 2 were there on top of each other. Now, the one thing I will tell you is these signs always have to be opposite. They cannot be the same signs, because if they were both positive 2, 2 plus 2 is 4. That would not be an elimination. Negative 2 plus 2 is what eliminates. So one sign has to be negative and one has to be positive. It doesn't matter which one's on top or bottom, just as long as they're different. Our next step was to eliminate and solve. Well, as you saw, I'm the eliminator, and I did eliminate those y's. We solved. Our fourth step was to plug number 3's answer into the original equation. We took this answer right here, the x equals negative 3, and we plugged it into one of the two original equations. We chose the top one because there was no number touching the x. We solved that and finished by writing it in point form, the point negative 3, 3. Alright, let's move on to the next one. If you think you can do this on your own already, go ahead and pause. Otherwise, we'll just carry on. So, in this example, we have x plus 2y is 0 and negative x plus y is negative 3. Do you think anything can be eliminated? If you said x, you are correct. Now, hopefully you already put 1s here because there's no number touching those letters. So 1 minus 1 eliminates. I have eliminated that problem, and now I will go straight down. Positive 2 plus 1 is 3y. 0 minus 3, negative 3. Be careful not to make silly negative mistakes, otherwise you'll do all this work for nothing, and then you will have to eliminate that problem from your paper and start all over. 3 is touching the y, so I will eliminate them by dividing by 3. Negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. I circle that so I remember to use it. Next, I go back up into one of the original equations. If you're paying attention, this is step 4. Which equation would you like, the top or the bottom? You said the top? Good idea. I always like to pick equations with all positives in it. So my original was x plus 2y equals 0. The number 0, by the way, is always good to do math with. And instead of y, I'm going to put the number negative 1 right here. And when I do that, I always put it in parentheses, just in case. I copy everything else exactly the way it looks. Don't forget to copy that too. Then it's time to do the tough solving. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. My last step is I add 2 to both sides. Those are eliminated, and I'm left with x equals 2. So my final step is to put it in point form. I always put my x first, so my first number is, that's right, 2. Then my second number, -1. So these two, if I graph them, would intersect at the point 2, -1. Well, that completes the mild section. Now it's time to move on to medium. Don't get too frightened. This will not be so bad. So, your next step, the very first one, make sure they're both in standard form. Well, they are both in standard form. So, my next step, step 2, multiply to obtain a like x or y. All this means, first of all, put a 1 here, because there's no number in front. You'll notice this time that -2 plus 1 does not cancel. 7 minus 3 does not cancel. That's what makes this a medium problem. So since nothing cancels right away, I need to multiply one of these lines by something. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. My advice to students who find this difficult or who are just starting is to draw an arrow and a set of parentheses and another arrow. Then, we're going to take this first number right here, whatever number is touching the top x, and we're going to write down just that number on the bottom. Don't worry about the sign. Then, take the bottom number, the one that's touching x, and write it here on top. Again, don't worry about the sign. So again, the top number goes to the bottom number goes to the top. And so far, we don't copy the signs. We just copy positives. Next, you're going to look at these two signs here. If they're the same, you make one of these negative. I don't care which one, pick one. If they're both different signs, leave them alone. Since these are both different signs, this is a positive and that's a negative, I'm going to leave these alone. Now I'm just going to multiply straight across. This whole equation right here, everything will be multiplied by 1. So -2x times 1 is -2x. 7y times 1 is positive 7y. 10 times 1 is positive 10. Now, this bottom equation, I see some of you have already figured this out. The bottom equation, you will multiply all of those by 2. So 1x times 2 is going to be positive 2x. -3y times 2, -6y. -3 times 2, -6. Now I'm to the same point that I was at the beginning of the mild problems. You will notice every time that you do this my way, the x's will eliminate. Then we will go straight down. 7y minus 6y is 1y. 10 minus 6 is 4. It's already solved for me, so I can just circle it. My next step is to go back into one of the two original equations. I don't care which one. However, I'm going to tell you it's going to be easier if you have a letter without a number touching it, or in our case with a 1 touching it. So we're going to pick that bottom equation because it's going to be easier. So x minus 3y equals -3 is the equation I chose. Again, you could choose the other one and it won't make any difference. It'll just be a little harder. So instead of y, I'm going to put 4. I always put it in parentheses, just in case. Next, x minus 3y, we already replaced with 4, and then equals -3. Your next step is just to solve. So 3 times 4 is -12, and then you add 12 to both sides. So you get x equals 9. For your final answer, you write it in point form. Don't forget, x is always first. Y is always second. So these two lines would intersect at the point 9, 4. Medium wasn't so bad, was it? Alright, if you think you can do this next equation on your own, go ahead and hit pause. Otherwise, I'll do it for you right now. So in this one, we can tell that 4 minus 3 does not eliminate. 3 minus 6 does not eliminate. So I'm going to need to multiply them by something. So I put my parentheses and my arrows. I take my first number that was on top and write it on bottom. I take my bottom number and write it on top. Again, we don't worry about the negatives. We only put the numbers. The 4 goes to the bottom, the 3 goes to the top. Now we look at the signs. This was positive, that was negative. Since they're different, we leave these alone. If they had been the same, I would have chosen one of these to be negative. I don't care which one, just pick one. Now I'm going to multiply this whole line by 3. Make sure you do every single term in this equation. So 4 times 3, 12. Don't forget your x. 3y times 3, 9y. 1 times 3, 3. Next, I'm going to multiply everything in the bottom equation by 4, every single term. The first term, negative 12, because 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Then, negative 6 times 4, negative 24. And 3 times 4, positive 12. Don't forget to put a plus sign here just to keep you from making a lame mistake. You will notice the x's have been eliminated. Now, this gives us negative 15y equals 15. This is an easy one to solve. Negative 15 is touching the y, and that's gross. So we divide by negative 15. I get y equals negative 1. I circle that, then I put it up into one of the two original equations. You'll notice that none of them have 1s in front of the x's or y's, but the top one is all positive, so I like to choose the top one. Again, if you chose the bottom, it doesn't matter. You'll get the same answer. Instead of y, I'm going to put the number negative 1. Always put it in parentheses. Next, I'm going to solve this by multiplying 3 times negative 1. Add the 3 to both sides. You get 4. 4 is touching the x, and that's just gross. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. Now I know that you are equation solving experts, so you could do all of this very quickly without me even being here. And you would get x equals 1. So for your final answer, you would say these two lines intersect at the point 1, negative 1. Or you would say the solution is 1, negative 1. This is where those two lines intersect. Now, I'm going to tell you another secret. For those of you who are doing pretty well with this, you might be thinking, what about, could I ever cancel the y's instead of the x's? Yes, you could. In this equation, if I had wanted to, I could have looked and seen that 6 and 3, well, the 3 can go evenly into the 6. So if I had wanted to, I could have multiplied the top line by 2, and that would have given me a positive 6 here, which would have canceled or eliminated the y's. So if I had wanted to, I could have multiplied the top line by 2 and the bottom line by 1. This would give me smaller numbers to work with here instead of that huge 15. Now, if you didn't understand a word that I just said, ignore it. Pretend I didn't say anything at all. Just go and do that first original cancel the x's. Alright, now we've done 2 medium problems. It's time to do the hot ones. On we move. Now, for those of you who didn't understand what I was talking about when I was talking about eliminating the y's, There is no difference whatsoever between the medium and the hot, so you won't even notice the difference. Really, I just call these hot because there's no easy way to eliminate either the x or the y. So I'm going to have to put a number on the top and the bottom no matter what. So this 2 goes to the bottom, that's right. That 3 goes to the top, because we always flip-flop these two numbers and put them here, ignoring the signs. Next, we're going to change these two signs because these were both positive, so one of these two signs has to change. It doesn't matter whether it's the 3 or the 2. I'm going to choose the 2 because I like my negatives to be on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply this whole top line by 3, giving me 6x, 9y, and negative 3. The whole bottom line, multiply every term by negative 2. 3 times negative 2, negative 6. 4 times negative 2, negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 2, positive 4. Make sure you put your plus sign there to keep you from making a lame mistake. Next, the 6's have been eliminated. There are no more x's. This gives us 1y equals 1, because negative 3 plus 4 is 1. Go back to either of the two originals. I don't even care which one. In this case, everything's positive on both, so I would personally pick the one with the smallest numbers. 2x plus 3y equals negative 1, but instead of y, I'm going to put 1. Don't forget to put it in parentheses. Next, I solve this equation by multiplying 3 times 1, subtracting 3, and then I'm going to divide by 2. Again, you are equation solving experts, so I know that you can do all of this without my help. So I get x equals negative 2. My final answer then, negative 2, 1. Now for our final problem, I'm going to tell you to go ahead and hit pause because you can do this all on your own. After you've hit pause, finish the problem, then hit play again. I'll be back. Alright, by now you've had plenty of time to hit pause and do this problem. So my hope is you first drew arrows. You put parentheses here. And another arrow. Those of you who are super advanced and like smaller numbers, you may have multiplied by 3 and negative 2, or negative 3 and positive 2, and that's just fine. The rest of us, we took the 5, we put it on the bottom. We took the 3, and we put it on the top. You then chose one of these to be negative. I don't care which one. You choose. This time, I picked the top. Again, it doesn't matter, top or bottom, we're going to end up with the same answers. So I'm going to multiply all 3 of these by negative 3. So negative 5x times negative 3 is positive 15x. 2y times negative 3 is negative 6y. And negative 7 times negative 3 is positive 21. Negative 3x times 5, negative 15x. 3y times 15, positive 15y. And finally, 3 times 5, 15. Again, always put a plus there if it's positive. As usual, you eliminated the x's. And going straight down, this gives us 9y equals 36. We divide by 9 because 9 is touching the y, and that's just gross. 36 divided by 9 is 4. We circle that answer and then go back into one of the 2 original ones. I don't care which one. I'm going to choose the bottom because the numbers are smaller. Negative 3x plus 3y equals 3. But instead of y, I'm going to put 4. always put it in parentheses. Then solve the problem. Negative 3x plus 12 equals 3. Subtract the 12. Then you have negative 3x equals negative 9. You can divide both sides by negative 3, and you get x equals 3. So for your final answer, you have the point 3, 4. Now, some of you are wondering, Eliminator, I want to get a perfect score on this test or quiz. I want to make sure that I don't make any lame negative mistakes. How can I make sure that my answer is correct? Well, I'm glad you've asked. I'm going to show you now. Now, don't erase all of your work. I'm just erasing this to make room. So, you said that the point was 3, 4. You told me that x was 3 and y was 4. So, to very simply check these equations, I'm going to rewrite the equations exactly the way they look, but without an x and without a y. So in this case, it was negative 5x plus 2y equals negative 7. I copied it with no x and y. I'm going to copy the bottom equation here as well. Negative 3x plus 3y equals 3. Again, don't write an x or a y. Now you told me that 3 was x, so every time I saw an x, I'm going to put a 3. And you told me that y was 4, so every time I saw a y, I'm going to put a 4. Next, I will simply type this into my calculator or into my brain. This gives me negative 15 plus 8, which is negative 7. You'll notice that these two are exactly the same on both sides. Check. We know that at least there's a 50% chance we have this correct. This is negative 9 plus 12, which is 3. 3 equals 3. True. This means that our answer is 100% correct. No doubt about it. Now I'm going to ace that test and eliminate any chances of me getting one wrong. Finally, I will tell you one thing. If you have a set of equations just like this, where they're not both in standard form, then you could always change one of them to standard form. Now, me personally, I would rather do substitution with this and take this and substitute it in place of x. However, if you absolutely despise substitution, or if somebody's making you do elimination, then I would take this and put it into standard form. To put it into standard form, all you do is move everything to one side. So you would do this and have x minus 2y equals, those are eliminated, negative 9. Now you have a standard form equation here, and you can copy this standard form equation here to have the exact same thing as the first problem we started with. The final thing I want to show you is something that ends up being kind of like a trick. So, just like normal, these don't look any different from the rest of the problems until toward the end. So, just like normal, 2 on bottom, 4 on top. For those of you who have realized the trick, you could have multiplied the top line by a 2 and the bottom line by 1 to get smaller numbers if you wanted to eliminate the y's. For the rest of us, we will just multiply by 4 and 2. The signs are opposite, so I just keep them positive 4 and positive 2. I multiply everything on top by 4. That gives us negative 8x plus 4y equals negative 20. On the bottom, we get positive 8x minus 4y equals positive 20. Alright, now we do our usual elimination. 8 minus 8, those cancel. They're eliminated. Next, we also have 4y minus 4y. Those are eliminated. This means that we have absolutely nothing on the left side. That's 0. On the right, negative 20 plus 20 is also 0. Now, whenever all of your variables are completely eliminated, both the x and the y, you have one of two options. Either no solution or infinite solution is going to be your answer. No solution is when all the variables x and y cancel and the result is a big fat lie. Otherwise, infinite solutions will be your answer. That's when all of the variables cancel and the result is true. In this case, if you look here, 0 equals 0 is true. So we know that this is going to be infinite solutions. So for my answer, I would simply write infinite solutions. You should do that on your paper now. If I ever get something where everything cancels on the left and I get something crazy, like let's pretend the x's and the y's all eliminate in a problem such as this, the x's eliminate, the y's eliminate, I have 0 on the left side, and then on the right I have 10 plus 5 is 15. This is a big fat lie. So I would say that the answer to this one would definitely be no solution, because this is when all the variables cancel and it's a lie. So I would write no solution for my answer here. Let's review what we've learned today. So first, we were doing elimination. There were 3 different types that I called mild, medium, and hot. First, for the mild one, those are the ones where y or x already cancels. In this case, the y canceled. Again, it's because these two numbers are exactly the same, 2 and 2, except one of them's positive and one of them's negative. It didn't matter whether the positive one was on top or bottom. It still canceled. You could also cancel the x's if the x's were the same number and the signs were different. In this case, we had -3, 3 for our answers, so we put that in the form of a point. We also had medium questions that look like this. This time, -2 and 1 and 7 minus 3, those do not eliminate. So we had to multiply one of the lines by some number in order to get something to eliminate. In this case, it was the x's. We made it so that 2 and -2 were there and they would cancel. You could also do the same with the y's. I showed you that trick as well. But mostly we're just going to take this number on top and put it on bottom, take the bottom number and put it on top. You ignore the signs until the very end when we look and we just make sure that they're opposite signs. If they're opposite signs, we leave these alone as positives. If they're the same sign, then we just have to change only one of them to a negative. You multiply the whole row, every single term, by that number, and then you eliminate. Again, you put the points, or you put your answers in the form of a point, just like this. There were also some hot spicy ones, which we talked about really are not any different from the medium ones. As long as you are just paying attention, you can always put the top one on bottom, the bottom one on top, and multiply all the terms by those numbers. I also showed you how to check your answers. All you have to do is plug in the x in place of x in both equations and the y in place of y in both equations. In this case, instead of x, we put 9, and instead of y, we put 4. When you type that into your calculator or into your brain, you get 10, which equals 10 on the right. In this case, on the bottom one, we have 9 minus 12 is -3. -3 does equal -3. Since these are both true, our answer is 100% correct, and we can finish this quiz or test or homework assignment knowing that we got this question perfectly right. Unfortunately, that sound means that our time together is up. That school up to the north has a bunch of cockroaches that need some eliminating. Well, don't feel like you're eliminating me, though. I'll be back. All you have to do is ask your teacher for me to come again. Until then, have a wonderful time eliminating your problems. I'll be back.